about the lesson is we've got selected daily assignments and found work when not directly assigned. We've got assigned in 2 places. So I'd like to change that.
So, and performed other duties as required,
What about task instead of assigned?
or other tasks as required. Instead of
And performed
found
other
work.
duties when required. And what was the other word you came up with?
Task.
Task.
Assigned.
What was the last word?
That's instead of assigned. Like you
Instead of
said.
assigned, okay, yeah. So what you're suggesting is a word to get rid of one of these assign words with a synonym, right, task. And notice I kept writing this down because we're still kind of brainstorming. We're coming up with words that might very accurately describe what you feel you have, okay, or what you want to say. Now let's read the last sentence, well, more than the last sentence, with the brainstorm and see what we've got. Selected daily assignments and found work when not directly assigned during downtime and performed other duties when required. Let's do this. Instead of erasing any of this, let's start another sentence. And you tell me what to write.
Selected daily tasks and performed other duties when not required.
When what?
Not required.
When not required. What do you think? I think that last one is gold. We just picked up a nugget and we polished it off, and it represents what you think, right? What you think you've done. You guys see how this works? Do you see why it's important to have as many words as possible? When we started off, we were struggling with self-supporting, autonomous, self-directed, trusted, right? But we've ended up at a point where this says exactly what she's done and what she feels like she has, okay? And we couldn't have done that if we didn't go through and put down a bunch of words, because we had to then have words to draw from and select from and say, no, right there's the gold. This is dirt, this is gold. Let's pull it together and make something out of it, yeah.
One other thing I would say, one thing I would like to critique,
Sure.
is whenever you say selected daily task, it sounds like you picked them, but like, honestly, she didn't pick them, she performed a daily task, so she accomplished what she needed to get done for that day, and usually, it sounds like she got it done, before the day was up, so she went and found other work,
Sure.
which I would say, and accomplished other duties were not required.
And there may be more. There may be some more polishing we can do to this nugget and make it closer. But ultimately, it's your decision to say, does this say, or, having an outside source like that is good, because this is more rich words, right, that you might say, oh yeah, I like that little piece. Sometimes what you'll find is someone will say something like that, like was just said, which was a helpful suggestion. You say, about 90% of that is not me, because you weren't there to experience it, right? Not critiquing you at all. But there's that 10% that, wow, I'd like to change one of these words, because that helps, right? It makes it closer to your actual experience. Yeah.
So I have a general question.
Sure.
How is there a point where you have too many skills listed?
Good question. Number one, duplicate skills. I would like to eliminate duplicate skills because do you want to talk about communication where you serve the customer in the context of your McDonald's job and your Kohl's job? Why? It's pretty obvious you're serving external customers in both cases, right? Maybe at the McDonald's job, you actually didn't interact with the public very much. You were a cook or order prep, right? In that case, maybe you want to talk about communication in the context of your peers. And you talk about communication in the context of the external customer at Kohl's, you see? There's no need to have the same skill two different places. Both are different facets of communication, but in two different contexts. So I wouldn't try to work communication with the customer into and shove it into the McDonald's job when it's not really there. Yeah, there was that time you went out and you emptied the trash and the customer said, hey, what do you like better? I'm going to make up items because I don't know what McDonald's has. I actually don't like McDonald's very much. Okay, the McFlurry or the whatever, okay? Or the ice cream cone. There's that time I talked to the customer. Why would you twist that into saying I communicate with customers at McDonald's when you have, you were a salesperson on the floor at Kohl's all day, every day for a year? You see what I'm saying? So is there a point where you have too much? I say you have too much if at this stage in your career you've got more than a page. I don't think your resume should be longer than a page unless you've had some extraordinary experiences, which is possible. Again, what you want on the page is what gets you the interview. That's really what you want. So it's a matter of you know, there's, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's another document called a, I'm gonna butcher it, curriculum vitae, I think it's what it is, CV. Okay, there's a CV and there's a resume. A CV is more of a history of everything you've done. A resume is more of a, here's the skills I have to sell, right? You don't have to sell all the skills you have. Let's say that you're good at sales, but you're not trying to be a salesperson, you want to be a design engineer. That's fine, you don't have to mention your sales skill. You know, it's none of their business, it doesn't matter, it's not relevant, you're not gonna use it for them anyway, because it's not what you're gonna do, right? So is there ever a point where there's too much? Yeah, it won't fit. Keep the things that are most likely to get you the interview, that's what matters, right? Not, I hate to say it, nobody actually cares about your history. That's just, they're to hire you for the future, not for your past, right? They're not writing a biography on you. Any other questions, comments? Yeah.
Does every resume need to have an objective, and what should an objective consist of? Because we kind of hit the topics of like, you know, we've really hit the previous work experience hard.
Right.
Education's pretty easy. The skills we could talk more about.
I talked about this a lot in the first video. Did you get a chance to watch it?
I hadn't.
Okay, yeah, watch that because that'll answer that question for you, and I'm running out of time. I did want to mention one thing though that you asked that I didn't address. You said, do you have to have an objective? I don't think you do, but the way I use the objective is to mention whether you want part-time or full-time work. That's the main reason I have objective in there. Okay, because if they want full-time and you want part-time, why even bother going to the interview? And vice versa as well, right? So you do want to not have the opportunity for that interview if it doesn't fit you. Yeah, but do go watch that video. I think we talked about the reason we're hitting the work experience so hard right now is because that's the part that students struggle with the most coming up with, and this brainstorming method generates it very nicely. The rest of it we talked about last time. Yeah.
So, I might be unique in this situation, so, do we put, down for education, do we put down schools, the colleges we went to but didn't get a degree from?
Good question. I think it depends on the school. If you're, let's say that there's a couple different reasons you might want that, okay? Let me back up. Remember that the goal of the resume is to get an interview, right? Now let's say that your experience was you graduated high school, you really didn't know what you wanted to do, you went to art school for 2 years, you almost got an associate's, and then you said, to heck with this, and you went and worked for about 3 years, and then you came to school here, okay? Now you might look at that and say, well, what engineering firm is gonna want someone who has some art training? Maybe none, but if that's a 3-year gap in your history or a 2-year gap in your history, it might be nice to include it just so they can see you're not the kind of person who went and sat in your parents' basements for those 2 years and played games after high school, you see, and did nothing with your life. There's nothing wrong with not knowing what you want to do and going one way and discovering, oh, this is not quite what I want, I'm going to change direction. That's self-correcting, that's a good thing.
Okay.
So for the sake of filling in time, I say you might want to include it. If it's taking up space where you could be putting skills that you have for sale, I think it needs to go. Unless it makes a 5-year gap in your history that looks bad. You see what I'm saying? So now if it's something related, like let's say you were studying aeronautical engineering, you decided, it's not quite the flavor of engineering I like, I want something more applied, I'm going to go to Purdue. You might include it just to show that you're an engineering type and you finally found where you fit.
But I wouldn't put the degree on top of just the school, right?
I don't know. Again, I would go back and say whatever you think is going to get you the interview, but I don't know what's going to get you the interview. I probably need to quit now. Anything else? All right, well, go back and watch the first video if you didn't have the chance. Please do check out the videos by Andrew McCart from a year ago. They're all on green screen, and the video's not very good as far as quality goes, but what he has to say is very valuable.
We're gonna find these videos.
My YouTube channel, and also Caleb's going to post them, I think, on the SME
What
website.
is your YouTube channel?
Just search for my name, Damon says. You'll find it.
Will you be available later today?
I'm meeting with a student later today, but I can make time for you. Is there a particular time you want to meet today?
Anytime between 3 o'clock and